Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari is under investigation by the FIA, and it might get disqualified before the race even starts. If this turns out to be true, Ferrari could lose crucial championship points, and Hamilton's entire final weekend could be ruined. What exactly did the FIA find on the SF25? And why is Charles Leclerc suddenly silent on the radio? We've got the leaked evidence, the team reactions, and the full story, so hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss the next Ferrari meltdown. The final Grand Prix weekend of the 2025 Formula One season was expected to be a tense showdown, but no one anticipated it would explode this early. On Friday, during free practice sessions 1 and 2 in Abu Dhabi, Ferrari's weekend spiraled into chaos after a surprise announcement from the FIA. What began as a normal day at Yas Marina quickly turned into a nightmare when Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari SF25 became the subject of an official FIA investigation. With the season hanging in the balance, Ferrari now faces the dual pressure of on-track performance and legal scrutiny from the sport's highest governing body. While fans were still absorbing Ferrari's early pace and driver rotations, a quiet message began circulating among paddock insiders. It was a formal notice from the FIA's technical department stating that irregularities had been detected in Hamilton's telemetry data during free practice 2. The issue? Inconsistent brake temperatures and questionable airflow data readings on the rear axle. These weren't minor glitches. According to FIA protocol, such anomalies can only be flagged if a car's performance deviates significantly from standard operating parameters or if there's suspicion of a rule infringement. Ferrari was officially in the crosshairs. The FIA's investigation into Hamilton's car comes at the worst possible time for the Italian squad. After months of trying to fix the SF25's unpredictability, they entered Abu Dhabi with minimal upgrades and a desperate hope for stability. Instead, they were met with data that challenged the car's legality. Sources suggest the FIA requested Ferrari's brake-by-wire logs, rear suspension calibration settings, and complete aero map documentation for the entire weekend. That level of scrutiny isn't routine, it's serious, and Ferrari knows it. The garage reportedly went into lockdown and key engineers were pulled from car setup duties to focus solely on compliance checks. To add pressure, Lewis Hamilton's own on-track performance didn't help defuse the situation. After sitting out FP1 to allow Arthur Leclerc his rookie session, Hamilton returned in FP2 only to deliver a disappointing 14th place finish. Nearly 9/10 off the pace of Lando Norris, his lack of pace raised eyebrows across the paddock. He ran wide in Sector 3, appeared uncomfortable on throttle exits, and lacked trust in the rear end of the car. When viewed alongside the telemetry concerns, some began to speculate whether something deeper was wrong not just with performance, but with setup legality. And while all eyes were on Hamilton, Charles Leclerc was silently dealing with his own troubles. A helmet ventilation issue plagued his session, making visibility and focus difficult. He still managed a solid P8, but over the radio, he voiced frustration with strategy timing and tire degradation patterns. For a driver usually laser-focused, this sort of distraction pointed to a wider problem inside the Ferrari camp. The team seemed fractured. One side was fighting the FIA in the technical room, while the other struggled just to keep the weekend on schedule. Beyond the technical and performance concerns, the biggest blow is psychological. This was supposed to be the weekend Hamilton cemented his legacy at Ferrari. Instead, he found himself at the center of controversy again. The FIA's scrutiny has shifted the media narrative entirely. No longer are we talking about redemption or podium chances. Now it's about legality, technical integrity, and whether Ferrari has crossed a line they can't walk back from. The silence from the team since the announcement has only deepened the mystery. In moments like these, F1 becomes more than sport, it becomes theater. The FIA doesn't act without reason, and when they dig this deep, they usually uncover something. For now, all Ferrari can do is comply, defend, and hope the issue is procedural rather than deliberate. But with the final qualifying session just hours away, the timing could not be worse. Hamilton's entire Abu Dhabi campaign now hangs on what the FIA discovers behind the data and what Ferrari forgot to declare. Friday morning opened with what should have been a feel-good moment for the Scuderia. Arthur Leclerc, younger brother of Charles, was given the chance to drive an FP1 as part of Ferrari's rookie session obligations. It marked a symbolic moment, two Leclercs sharing data and track experience within the same Formula One team garage. Arthur's outing was clean, measured, and ultimately solid. He finished the session in 16th place, over a second off the top, but his feedback was praised by the engineers. This wasn't about setting times, it was about contributing to the team and gaining experience under pressure. Charles, on the other hand, seemed determined to anchor the session with statement. He pushed hard from the first run and ended the session in third place, only 16 thousandths of a second behind Lando Norris in P1. It was one of his sharpest FP1 performances in recent memory, showing control through Yas Marina's slower sectors and precision through the high-speed corners. His feedback was direct. The car felt drivable, but the setup still lacked consistency in Sector 2, especially under heavy braking into the chicane. The garage atmosphere was positive, at least it was at that moment. The mechanics moved between cars efficiently, the data engineers compared tire deltas without alarm, and both Leclercs shared debrief notes like seasoned professionals. For Ferrari, FP1 had gone according to plan. But beneath the surface, there were whispers about temperatures in Hamilton's power unit and unexplained telemetry gaps, details the team hadn't yet brought forward to the FIA. That oversight would come back to haunt them just hours later. As FP1 closed, Ferrari focused on compiling long-run data. Their simulations showed good consistency on the medium compound, but high degradation on the softs. Charles ran 2 race stints, both compromised by tire overheating by lap 7. These findings would later influence Ferrari's strategy planning, although whether they drew the right conclusions would be up for debate. Hamilton's absence from FP1 meant Ferrari had one less data stream, and as the investigation would later show, critical anomalies emerged during Arthur Leclerc's final run. Hamilton's feedback would not arrive until FP2, but even then, Ferrari faced a data imbalance. Arthur's driving style, while precise, differs significantly from Hamilton's. That meant Ferrari's understanding of car balance and tire behavior during the morning session was skewed toward Leclerc's inputs. It also limited their ability to benchmark Hamilton's car accurately, something that became a major point of concern once the FIA's investigation began looking for traceability and setup conformity between sessions. Despite the strong one-lap performance from Charles, there were early signs of fragility in Ferrari's approach. Radio messages captured Leclerc expressing concern about initial brake bite and inconsistent pedal response during high-speed deceleration. These details, often overlooked on Friday, became far more important once the FIA's probe began to focus on brake system irregularities. Ferrari didn't act on these warnings immediately, choosing instead to refine tire pressures and energy deployment maps for FP2. By the time FP1 concluded, Ferrari was already operating on a compromised foundation. The data collected was incomplete, their car behavior varied depending on the driver, and no one yet realized that the session, which had begun with celebration, would soon be linked to one of the most serious FIA investigations of the season. From the outside, it looked like a successful Friday start. But from the inside, cracks had already begun to show. Cracks the FIA would soon widen with a formal inquiry into Hamilton's car setup. When Free Practice 2 began, all eyes turned to Lewis Hamilton. After sitting out FP1, this was his first real chance to test the SF25 at Yas Marina, and more importantly, to provide Ferrari with the high-level feedback they were missing. But right from the start, something felt off. Hamilton's radio was tense within the first 5 laps. He questioned brake consistency, gear sync, and throttle response mid-corner. His engineers, already burdened with internal investigations, responded in clipped, cautious tones. Ferrari wasn't just reacting to performance, it was reacting to something bigger behind the scenes. Hamilton's initial long-run stint on the medium tires exposed the car's fundamental imbalance. Through turns 5 and 6, the SF25 appeared unstable, twitching under deceleration and drifting wide on exit. Sector 2, critical for lap time, became a weakness. Hamilton's lap times reflected it, averaging 0.6 slower than the top 3 runners across multiple simulations. What stood out wasn't just the lack of outright pace, but the unpredictability from lap to lap. For a car in the final weekend of development, this was alarming. Ferrari had no excuse left. This was supposed to be their cleanest version of the SF25. Charles Leclerc, meanwhile, continued to struggle with internal cockpit issues. While his early runs were cleaner than Hamilton's, his frustration over the radio hinted at a deeper dissatisfaction. During one run, he complained about something loose around the neck, later confirmed to be a problem with his helmet's ventilation system. It disrupted his focus and led to inconsistent braking points. Despite these issues, Leclerc still managed to extract a P8 time on softs, though even that run was marred by traffic in the final sector. In essence, Ferrari left FP2 without a single clean, representative lap from either of their main drivers. By the halfway point of the session, other teams were ramping up their qualifying simulations. Red Bull, McLaren, and even Aston Martin began to find rhythm, while Ferrari stayed silent. No radio push, no aggressive tire runs. Engineers were seen gathered around Hamilton's telemetry, paying closer attention to temperature overlays than lap deltas. Speculation spread quickly. Some insiders noted the lack of brake duct testing or high-speed rake sweeps, both routine on Fridays. This absence of data acquisition only made sense under one condition: Ferrari was hiding something, or at least reacting to something they didn't want made public just yet. The mood in the Ferrari garage turned visibly more tense when the FIA's inspection team made a second unannounced visit midway through FP2. They requested direct access to Hamilton's car, specifically the rear brake assembly and cooling ducts. This was no longer about isolated performance concerns, it was a full-blown compliance audit. Team principal Fred Vasseur was seen in heated conversation with senior FIA officials behind the garage curtain. For fans watching live, these weren't the usual strategy meetings. This was damage control, happening in real time during one of the most critical practice sessions of the year. By the end of FP2, Hamilton had only managed the 14th fastest time. Over 0.8 slower than Lando Norris in P1, and even behind Lance Stroll's Aston Martin. For a driver of Hamilton's caliber, on a track where straight-line speed matters less than balance and rhythm, this performance was not just unexpected, it was humiliating. His body language stepping out of the car said all. Arms crossed, head shaking, no eye contact with the pit wall. Meanwhile, Leclerc, though faster, looked just as concerned. The lack of long-run pace combined with regulatory uncertainty had turned a technical issue into a team-wide psychological crisis. Ferrari ended the day facing 3 distinct problems: unstable race pace, broken internal communication, and an escalating investigation from the FIA. All of them feed into each other. You can't develop race strategy without clean data. You can't find pace when drivers don't trust the car. And you certainly can't win when your team principal is busy answering legal questions instead of engineering ones. What started as a quiet Friday has now erupted into a full-scale threat to Ferrari's integrity, performance, and title hopes. And unless something changes overnight, Saturday could be the most pivotal day of their season.